Welcome everybody, it's your man EGlaze out here on location at beautiful North Star Church with the guy that leads this great church, Pastor Mike Linch. How you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing great, buddy. It's an honor to be here.
I am, just let me start with Lunch with a Leader. It is a very powerful program. I appreciate you allowing people like me to be able to come and enjoy it. But where did that concept come from and being able to get leaders with it?
Yeah. So, it's great. It's a great thing. It was a dream we had to take, because I believe the greatest leadership's taught in Scripture. And it was the dream to get some of the great leaders in our community in one room and talk about not our idea of leadership, but God's idea of leadership and what it could look like if we led His way. And we hope a few people would show up, and we've ended up having a great crowd, most of whom don't go to our church. Most of whom are just leaders in the community, go to other churches, or maybe don't even go to church, but they have a heart to be the leader God created them to be. So we take, as you know, we take the life of King David. We're just walking through his life for a year, and then next year we'll take a new character and learn leadership from their lives.
And also, just to keep on that same leadership, your podcast, Linch with a Leader.
Yep.
I see you use the term leader a lot. What does leadership mean to you?
Leadership means being the person that God created you to be. And I think that God puts us all in a place, and then He puts us with gifts to be used for Him and His kingdom and His glory. And so to be the leader I was created to be, I've got to point people towards Him, not me. So that's what leadership means to me.
I always like to ask you, my pastoral friends this. When did you get the call?
That's a great question. I think it began really when I was in high school. I started feeling that itch. I went off to play baseball in college, thought that was my direction, ended up not going that direction. And I interned my summer of my freshman year in college as a student pastor. I interned in a student ministry and knew that was what I wanted to do. And it was just one of those things. I just knew that was what I was meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, because, you're playing baseball, you're doing your thing like that. Most people would be leaning towards sports, but that calling is so special.
Yeah.
For gentlemen like yourself and women as well. When did you know that at this point in time I need to go and I want to be a part of a church and lead a church and things of that nature? Because getting a calling is one thing.
Yeah.
Leading a church and a community is a whole different thing.
I heard a guy say one time, Manuel, he said, if there's anything else you'd rather do, go do it. But if there's not, that's what you meant to do. And so I graduated college and knew that was what I wanted. A door opened in Kennesaw, Georgia. Yeah. As a student pastor, I came and worked there for a couple of years, had a great run there, and then we had the dream of starting North Star. And so it's just been what I do. I think we're all in ministry. I think what you do is as much ministry as what I do. I just do it vocationally, where other guys do it as part of their lives as ball coaches and principals and teachers and business leaders. They just do ministry a different way than I do. I do it for a living, quote unquote, but the others are just as called as I am.
What's interesting about what you just said was that starting North Star, that's something in itself, to be able to start a church and like that. Let's take it from a different, when you said to your wife or your family, I want to start my own church, how was that received?
It's funny. So I had a good buddy named Ike Reichert, a great guy here in Atlanta, pastors Piedmont Church and CEO of Must Ministries. Ike was our founding pastor, and I remember Ike and I talking about this, and I'm like, we're crazy. What are we doing? I mean, this is 8 out of 10 new churches don't make it.
Right.
And so, we both left great jobs, great churches, but we knew it was what we're supposed to do. And my wife hates change. Her personality is very, she likes to know security, things are good. And I looked at her and I said, I think it's what we need to do. And she said, I think so too. And so we both felt a peace that God was in it. It was what we were supposed to do. Fail or not, we had to do something. Right. We knew we were ready. We were just at that place. And, it's for all of us. Faith's a leap. Yeah. It's a walk into the unknown, and so very much was that for us.
But that's a lot of people don't understand about that faith piece. A lot of us go through it and all that, because I knew you was in the community, but why did you think this area, this part of the community was ready, or that was the place you wanted to be?
We looked around, so that was summer of '96. We looked around, there just weren't churches. There were churches, there were lots of great churches, but there weren't a lot of churches for people who didn't go to church. And we wanted to be the church that somebody who never went to church heard about and went, I would give them a shot.
Yeah.
I would try them.
Right.
They're different. The way they love, the way they serve is different. And we thought there was a market for that, because at that time we had the main churches around, which were great, but there was this whole huge group of people moving in. They didn't have another option,
right.
Of a more contemporary service. And I'll just say, there's not a right or wrong on services. It's just different. It's different.
Right.
It's like radio stations. We want to be a different radio station, different music, and it worked. Thankfully, it worked, and God was in it.
And it's funny. This area has grown so much.
Oh man!
Since I've been here since '99 in this little area, it's just has bloomed. How did you get the word out about it to make sure the community? You just said I understand the contemporary wanted people to get, but I've known people that have been in this church for years. They say, I go to North Star, and then the one thing, it's not a specific race or anything. It's open to everybody. How did you get the word out to make people feel comfortable coming here?
We started serving. So the very first thing we did to get the word out is we started serving our community. We feel like the greatest way we can show God's love is to go out and show God's love. Not tell people about it, but show it. So we began serving in our schools. I remember meeting early days in North Star. We met with a guy who was with Coca-Cola, and he said, he was a consultant for Coke, and he said, I would think y'all would want to be meeting new families. We're like, yeah. And he said, where are they? They're at schools and ball fields and businesses. So business leaders and businesses, parents of these kids that you want to reach are in schools and ball fields. And so he said, I would think every time they turned around, you'd want them to run into North Star. And we're like, yep, that's it. So we just started serving our local schools. We did our very first act of kindness before we ever had a Sunday service at North Cobb High School, serving the hospitality room at a basketball tournament.
Wow.
But we did it because to the school it showed, we're in this with you. We want to make this community a better place to live, and we want you to bump into us all the time at ball games, at business events. We want you to get, golly, I keep hearing North Star everywhere, to the point when life hits a wall, you go, you know what? I think I'll go try that church. I don't know another church, and that's why we do it.
I want to ask you this question. This came from my wife. She was like, when was your personal turning point towards Christianity?
I was 14. So I grew up in church. I was never given a choice. Parents nowadays give their kids choices.
Give choices, right?
Yeah, my parents. Yeah, your choice was to get in the car willingly or get in the car by being chased out of the house with a spoon. Yeah. All right, and so I went willingly. And so I grew up in church, but I didn't get it till I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And I was 14. Ike, our pastor, lost his wife and child in childbirth. And I remember it shook me, and I remember thinking, I don't have that relationship with Christ. I don't know if something were to happen to me, what would happen to me. And I turned my life over to Christ at 14.
That's a great story. That's awesome. But how do you relate sports and Christianity and how they melt together? I think the leadership is transferable.
Sure.
But how does... Because you'll see the guy saying, "I want to thank God for winning this game," or all that. How do you see sports and the church role mixing together? Yeah,
well, I think that athletics is a laboratory of life. I mean, there's no doubt about it. What a kid learns on a football field, basketball court, baseball field, soccer, lacrosse, whatever it is, you learn adversity, and you learn triumph, and you learn teamwork, and you learn all that stuff is straight out of Scripture. Now here's the hidden thing behind Lunch with a Leader. All of the things we're teaching business leaders are things we've taught a local high school football team at chapel on Friday night. So these are all they're the same thing. They're just we break it down a little different. I think that athletics is something that just makes you a better person because you have to learn so much through it. But on top of that, I just think that you see, so much of the New Testament is written. Paul talks about the race, and he talks about running the race, and he talks about, and he gives the illustration of we've got a great crowd of witnesses watching us run this race. And so there's a lot of even transferable things in the New Testament that Paul has to say because it was written off the Greek games, back during that time. So I think athletics and Christianity, they're different, But I think Christianity doesn't go, well, it's here and then athletics are here. When you are a Christ follower, it influences who you are at everything you do, whether it's athletics or business or school or whatever it is. It affects it.
So do you just don't have enough to do? Saying you the pastor of this church, lunch with a leader. Where did Linch with the Leader, the podcast, come from, and why did you decide to do those?
We set a goal here at North Star. In 2017 was our 20-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. We set a goal. We wanted to influence 10,000 people to take their next step towards Christ in the next 5 years. Well, I felt a conviction, and not for everybody, it was for me. Yeah. I needed to influence 10,000 people. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, I can't have lunch with 10,000 people, so that ain't going to happen. I don't know 10,000 people. So what's a way to do that? Well, podcasts are a way to do that. And so podcast is a way I can find a great leader. It's not my words, it's their words. Right. I can find a great leader and let them share how they've led with their faith out in front. And maybe it'll influence another leader to be a godly leader. And when they're a godly leader, they influence the people below them. Gotcha. So if I can influence a leader to live for Christ, they can influence their followers, the people that work for them, the people that are on their teams, the people that are in their family, if they can do that. And so we began Linch with a Leader, the podcast, with that. And so I went to a couple key guys and threw it out and said, would you be willing to be on? And they said, we would. And I remember I got 5 guys said yes, John Gordon, Andy Stanley, a couple guys, and then I came back here and said, I want to do a podcast, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And so you know how that is. Yeah. Everybody here is like, well, that's nice. Yeah. So when does this start? And I'm like, September. This is August. And so we figured it out, and it's been great. But my goal is if leaders can get it, mm-hmm. they can cause others to get it because they're a leader. Right. And so, and who's a leader? Anybody who's got a leadership role, and there's not one of us in this world that have a leadership role with somebody. Yep. May just be a teammate, but we got a leadership role with them.
That's awesome. You also, like you say, you speak with high schools. Yep. Do you also do pros in college as well?
I do. In fact, 2 Friday nights ago, I was with KSU, mm-hmm. and man, it's nice to have a team that you go, I think they might win this week, and they really do. And so I was with them. I don't do a lot with them, but I do things with their team in the fall. Mm-hmm. We host them here at the church for a big event, and I'll go over once or twice a year, maybe do something with the coaches. These are great guys. Awesome. Got him Sterling Brown's our week-to-week chaplain. And then I do something with a local high school football team every Friday night. My son and I do it together. Awesome. And man, it's just a great experience. Awesome. And then the day we're recording, this coming Sunday is a Monday night game for the Falcons. I'll be with them Sunday night. Awesome. Doing a chapel service for those guys. So those are fun, man. Those are gimme events. Those are just great. It challenged me. I tell you what, you walk in a room of guys you see on TV every week, and you see 20 of them with their Bible open, and they're trying to figure out who God is. Wow. They're really those high school kids from Friday night. They're just a couple years older. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to figure it out. Yep. They still got worries and doubts. Now they got wives and kids, and their name's in the paper more. But they're still the same people.
How do you feel about when you create a relationship? How do you feel about that relationship and keeping it and nurturing it and things of that nature? So you seem like you got a lot of great relationships with the community, mm-hmm. with teams and all that. Seems like you really put a lot of perspective and nurturing in these relationships. How important are you to grow relationships and bonds and things like that?
I think it's everything. I think relationships are everything. In fact, if you go back to Christ's ministry, his greatest things he did were when he was on the way somewhere. Mm. And you think about the depth of his friendships with Mary, Martha, Lazarus, with his disciples. These guys loved him because he spent time with them. And I think time yields trust. So you don't build them overnight. We've been here, I've been in the community for 27 years. Wow. 21 years here at North Star. There's a lot of water's gone under that bridge. And, it's not just trust for people who come to North Star, but I think you build trust with people that aren't there. And you do that by serving and loving them. And I think, to me, business, church, school, team, relationships are everything. Everything rises and falls on relationships.
That's awesome. One of your biggest stories that came out recently is your drive with the $6.8 million of debt. Yep. And you the giant of death, and we learn about Goliath now and things of that nature. you made a concerted effort saying we're going to get this and we're going to pay this debt off in a period of time.
Yep.
First of all, did everybody think you were crazy? Or did they all believe and understand, all right, Pastor say we're going to do this, we're going to do this?
I'm sure we had our people thought we were crazy, and they're probably right about a lot of that. But, man, we just got tired of paying. We just got tired of paying debt. Right. It's just like the Bible says. Says it about us personally, but we were doing it corporately, and we had dreams, we had visions, we had ideas, and we couldn't do any of them because of debt. Right. And we just, the borrower, was slave to the lender. And the banks aren't bad. They were willing to give us the money. We just had to pay it back, and we didn't have enough bandwidth to do other stuff. So we just made a concerted effort to go, we're going to get rid of it. And man, our people dove in on it and bought that vision. Wow. And man, we started in 2013 and 2018 we paid off $6.89 million, and we were able to take that same money we were given the bank. We're able to take that money now and invest it back in our community, which has been a blast.
Because, coming off that, I think it's called the Beebo Program.
That's right.
And you were able to give, and I saw what you gave, I think 4 ministries.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Yeah. 3. We started with 3, right. But we'll do every month. We're giving away $30,000 every month.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's a blast.
I saw the pictures of the people with the checks. It looks like they the publisher clearinghouse.
Oh yeah, they had no idea. They had no idea when they came that day what we were doing. Most of them we won't do publicly. Most of them will be going to their businesses or meeting up with them over lunch and giving them a check. But here's what we learned. Number one, we don't have to recreate the wheel. There's lots of great ministries going on in our community, from Mush Ministries to the Zone with Missy Owens that are addressing true basic needs in our community. Right. North Star's not the end all. I mean, we're a piece of the work. We're not the work. So let's go partner with people that are getting it done, and we can do more together than we can apart. So whether it's a church or another nonprofit, then we've got work we can do together.
That's awesome. Putting that back in the community, that's awesome. What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
God's faithful. I think that that at the end of the day, that it may not look like He's going to come through, but He's going to come through. And you can trust Him. It probably on a glorified level what the Patriot fans feel when Brady gets the ball with 30 seconds left. He'll get us to the end zone. I don't know how He's going to do it, but you learn over time. You've watched God come through enough. He is faithful, and so don't let my circumstances dictate my faith. That'd probably be it.
And just for my sports people out there, tell me your sports background real quick.
So I'm a hack. How about that? I'm a hack. So I grew up, I'm a baseball guy. I never played football. Big fan, never played. Lots of opinions like most of you that never played. But I played high school baseball, played pretty well, signed a D1 scholarship, pitched up at Liberty University in Virginia, and pitched for the Yankee great Bobby Richardson. Any of y'all that follow the Yankees back in the 60s, he was with the Mantle, the Maris, and Yogi Berra, and Moose Skowron. I think he won multiple Gold Gloves, World Series MVP, had the honor of playing for Coach for 3 years. Wow. My senior year, I was retired by the new coach that moved in. So as my dad said, "Are you going to play pro?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "Well, then just think of it as you're retiring a year early." So I became a pitching coach for the school. I was the bullpen, actually, student bullpen coach. And athletics to me are just a part of who I am and how I'm wired. And I love athletics. I love the game behind the game, the mental game. I love the stuff that goes on that makes the game happen. And athletics are just a big part of who I am. If I was not a pastor, I would be a high school teacher and coach. And there's no doubt about it.
So is that what helped you? How would you describe how playing and coaching helped you to where you are today, as far as a minister, as a pastor?
Well, there's a drive. Right. So, I mean, there's a drive. I think everybody in athletics has a drive to be the best. And so there's a drive there. Secondly, I would say it helped me handle adversity. You don't end up getting retired if all your things turned out well. So helps me handle adversity better. I think it helps me understand people better. Being around the game, you're around all kinds of different people. Bill Curry, in fact, in his podcast, talked about the huddle. Yeah. He said it's the greatest picture of what America could be, because when they're all in a huddle, everybody's equal. and they're all working together for one goal. Doesn't matter what color they're from, but they all bleed red, and they're all on the same. You got the same jersey on, and they're all working for that team. Athletics teaches us so much. And so I look back at that, man, it's where I made friendships of people I would have never hung out with. But because we put on the same uniform, we were on the team together.
That's awesome.
And so, man, I just can't imagine my life unwound from athletics. It's just such a part of who I am. And I'm thankful to serve in a church that allows me to still be around athletics a lot.
Does anything keep you up at night? When you are, I know you're a man of faith. I know all
sure.
that. But do you go to bed and say, "Man, I would like to do more here," or "Can I do more here?"
I think, yeah, it does. And I think that you look at our world, and I think our world disagrees on more than they agree on. And you're like, and then you sit down and talk to people, and it's like, what are we so disagreeable about? I don't understand. But you sit down and talk to them, and I wish we had time for people to get to know people and know their story, because you can't hate someone when you know their story. And I think those are the kind of things that drive me nuts. Yeah. It's just like, why are we arguing about this? Why this is nuts? And and it breaks my heart to see people that don't know the Lord. And what are we going to do to get the gospel to them? What are we going to do to reach them where they are? And you can do so much as a person and so much as a church, but we got to all do it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the great things, I always tell people, you can lead more by action than by mouth.
No doubt about it.
Because a lot of people say, well, you should do this and all that. And I see you saying you served first.
Yeah.
That's how you got in the community.
That's
you didn't
right.
go out and just get on the street corner with a megaphone.
That's right.
Saying,
that's right.
Come to my church. You had to go do it. And that's some of the things. When you're teaching your children and about getting to the level or doing what you're doing or maybe doing their own thing, what are some of the lessons you want them to learn from what you've done, been through, and are right now?
Well, I think so. My kids are 24 and 21, so mine are a little older now. I knew that they were going to remember more what I did than what I said. And man, it's great to preach it on Sunday, but if I ain't living it Monday to Saturday, it's going to be cold water thrown on that fire. So I would think definitely for every person that your kids are watching you. And I was talking to a guy. In fact, it was on a podcast, and I asked him, it hadn't come out yet, and I said, "What did your dad do right?" He's a musician in Nashville, not a Christian musician, but a musician who loves Jesus. Right. But his dad was a pastor. I said, "What did your dad do right?" He said he gave me a functional faith. He said he lived his faith like he would have lived it if he was working at the truck stop. Wow. It was just who he was. Wow. And he said that's what marked me. And I think for every parent, I want my faith to look so real they can't imagine my life without it, which is the way it should be. And the second thing is stay involved with them. I mean, stay involved in their lives. Don't accept, well, they're teenagers, they don't want to talk. It's not acceptable. Right. Don't let them go in their room. Don't let them hole up in the corner. And it takes intentionality. It takes time and effort and energy. And we say this all the time. You're gonna have a great marriage, you better be intentional, right? Having a great marriage does not just come easy. It comes by going, you know what, I'm gonna communicate with my wife and I'm gonna spend time with her. I'm gonna go out on a date. Being a parent the same way. You gotta be incredibly intentional with your kids. You gotta pour into them, and you got one shot. Here's what I would say though, Emmanuel. I've never met a parent who was trying to be a great parent that wasn't. I've met a lot of parents that weren't trying to be great parents. They were just letting it happen. They ended up being bad parents. Right. But if you're trying, usually you turn out okay. Yeah.
Had that moment with my daughter recently. She went to Savannah State freshman, and things that I didn't know she was learning. Yeah. She learned, and that's a great thing. When it's all said and done, and I'm talking about death, everybody gets on about death, but when you're sitting on the beach or an island, what would you like for the legacy of Pastor Mike Linch to be?
That I pointed people to Christ everywhere I went. That's what I hope, is that when all of life is said and done, people go, you know what, he wasn't the smartest guy. He wasn't a theologian. There ain't no argument on that, all right? He wasn't a theologian. He may not have been the best pitching coach helping a high school baseball team. Man, I think he looked like what Jesus looked like, and he pointed me to him. If that was said, from my kids to my wife to my family to the people that I bump into every day, and whether it's on a ball field or a church meeting or business meeting, if I do that, then life was lived to its fullest.
Thank you, sir.
You're a good man.
Tell them where they can find you at, sir, in the church and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So you can find me, North Star Church, northstarchurch.org. Man, we have online services every Sunday, 9:30 and 11. Shameless plug. All right. You can go to iTunes, Linch with a Leader, and it's Linch, Linch with a Leader, and you can type that into iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, download the podcast, or you can look me up on Twitter, Instagram at Mike Linch, Linch. And anything we can ever do for you, I'd be honored to do. Keep hanging out with this good guy, though, right here.
Are you active on Twitter? You ain't one of those guys.
I'm a Twitter active guy.
Okay, all right.
So, I'm more of a, and I'll be honest, I'm more of a load it and it loads later.
Right. Okay.
But every now and then, I'm never going to tell you what I'm eating. I'm never going to tell you, this is where I went today. But I will, I stay pretty active with quotes and stuff like that on there.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's my honor.
Hey, this is the guy, man. Many people make me wake up and, who is this guy? I got to go here.
You're a good man.
But thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate him. We'll talk to you guys later.